This interview with Laura Dern aired on Oscars Day in 1992, which was March 26th, and she talked at length about being raised by two acting parents, my favorite actor, Bruce Dern, and her mother, three-time Oscar nominee, Diane Ladd. She was in between relationships with Twin Peaks Agent Cooper, Kyle MacLachlan, and going on to Jeff Goldblum, who she'd meet on the set of Jurassic Park about a year after this interview. After that, she ended up going down the musician pathway and marrying Ben Harper. Didn't last either. Musicians are not a good gamble. Actors evidently are not. Grinding wheel salesmen are not. The good news is that she and I have both come to our senses, and I may be dating Laura Dern. Darn it.
Coming up, Laura Dern. In the 1985 film Mask, 18-year-old Laura Dern got the part she had been waiting for, playing the blind girl who falls in love with the film's lead character.
Oh, Rocky, I've missed you. I don't want to go.
Too tall to play the typical teen, her roles were often more substantial. In the 1985 film Smooth Talk, she lost her virginity to Treat Williams.
What do I do now?
The daughter of Diane Ladd and Bruce Dern, acting was all she knew, all she ever wanted to do. It was director David Lynch who cast Laura in the 1986 film Blue Velvet.
Jeffrey, what's going on here?
Lynch was impressed and cast her again in Wild at Heart. It was Laura's first sexually adult role.
Baby, you better run me back to the hotel. You got me hotter than Georgia asphalt.
In Wild at Heart, Laura co-starred with her mom, and recently they teamed up again in the motion picture Rambling Rose.
Is it true you were an orphan? Yes. Me too.
Once again, Laura's sexuality is the focus as she plays Rose, a sexually starved girl in a constant search for love.
But I am only a human girl person, and I ain't always perfect.
Although Laura loves working with her mom, she would like to do something with her dad. As she says, she's an equal opportunity kid. What is it like having famous parents?
There are certainly pros and cons to it. I mean, the great thing about it is obviously having wanted to be an actress since I was a child. I was raised around it. I was prepared for it. And I understood the business, you know, I think a lot more being brought up around it.
Your parents, Diane Ladd and Bruce Dern, divorced before you were really old enough to know what was going on.
Right.
What are your earliest memories of your dad?
My memories are very specific of him because when I had time with him, it was very important to me because I lived with my mother, and at the time he was working all over the world. I remember, you know, when we were living in New York, going to Rumpelmeyer's and having the soda, and, you know, there are very specific memories of what he gave me for Christmas, and those were very important. And I think any child that's been through a divorce, when the other parent comes to visit, you know, those memories usually are very important to you.
There was a story published somewhere that when you were 12 years old that you took your dad to lunch to tell him what a lousy dad he had been. Is that true?
Yeah, in effect. I mean, I remember it was Christmas time when I was 12, and we sat down and I said, you know, this is what I don't like about you as a father, and this is what I need in a father. And,
what was he doing?
He was like, you're right. I can't say the word on television. I'm not a good dad, and you know, what can I do? How can we, you know, remedy this? And it slowly developed into a friendship, which was the first goal. And now he's really a daddy. I mean, you know, he's the person I call late at night when I'm crying over a boy or something and say, Dad, what do I do? He's great that way.
How is your relationship different with your mom now that you've experienced acting with her than it was before that?
Well, I find that I relate to her more as a friend sometimes now than I did before. I think that's also growing up, you know. I'm almost 25, and I I'm just at that age now where saying I'm a woman is becoming more comfortable, as opposed to like, I know I'm a girl, I don't know when I'll be a woman, you know? So I think I've eased into that area where my mother doesn't have to be mommy necessarily as much anymore. And along with that, the relationship that we've had through working together has become that of two peers.
She said when she was questioned about Ramblin' Rose that she almost knew before you did it what your emotion would be. Did you feel the same thing?
Oh, wow. Yes, I mean, certainly in some ways I felt that. The first time I experienced this, actually, when we were working on Wild at Heart together, there was a very emotional scene we had to do. And I was crying, and when my mother looked at me, she automatically started crying, and it was because I think she knew where that pain was coming from. There was something so beautiful about that.
In Wild at Heart, you were a mother and daughter playing a mother and daughter. Was it difficult doing the sex scenes, knowing that your mom was in the same film?
Not really. I mean, she had read the script. She knew what I was required to do. And, you know, I don't believe in sex for the sake of sex in movies. I mean, how boring. And the thing that I loved about Lula and Sailor's characters in Wild at Heart was that it was a duo, two people who loved each other and were hot together. And one of the most unfortunate calamities in movies today is this belief system in movies that marriage is a bore and hot sex comes through a lack of monogamy or something. You know, the fatal attraction theory that you've got a good woman at home, but you don't want to make love to her. And Wild at Heart is very sexy, but it's two people who are in love, who are monogamous, who are together. And it was such a pleasure, because, you know, to me, sexuality and love should go together. I'd like that to be true.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
Tell me about marriage. It sounds like you think about it. I mean, is this something, does the institution work for you?
Yeah, the concept really works for me. And I think being raised in a divorced family, I would like to raise my kids, you know, with a mother and a father both around who love each other. I think that's exciting. And I would love to be married and be passionate with my loved one, you know, and watch each other grow old and our bodies change and our hearts change and our ideas, you know, develop. There's something to me very erotic about that.
Is it possible to have a successful relationship with someone who's in the business? We've seen a lot of the Hollywood marriages fall apart because of that.
I know. I certainly.
That's four I know. I think. Is that
I pondered this so much.
I can tell.
You know, I came from two actors who didn't work, unfortunately. I've worked with Paul Newman, who had pictures of Joanne Woodward all over his dressing room, and they talk about each other with such respect and love. So some work, some don't. But I do know, having dated actors, directors, that they understand me and I understand them. And there is sort of a kindred spirit feeling that you don't get if someone doesn't understand the business.
My ideal man would be Albert Brooks. Did you say that?
I think it was someone had said to me, the way that came about, someone said to me, wouldn't you love to do a love scene where Kevin Costner, you know, rips your clothes off or something like that? Not that I, you know, put that down or anything, but I said, you know, to me, a love scene would be so brilliant if I was with Albert Brooks and he was like trying to get my bra off and we'd laugh about it. Because to me, there's something so sexy about humor in the midst of eroticism.
Right.
And I find that very sexy, and I find men who are funny very sexy.
You've said that two of your idols are Katharine Hepburn and Marilyn Monroe. Now, what is the mixture of that?
Well, I always thought that sort of the ideal woman would encompass Katharine Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe, and Lucille Ball, like put in a vat and mixed together. That, to me, is just the greatest lady that could ever exist. You know, Hepburn is just a brilliant woman in every way, and she's so sly, and she's so quick. I mean, she's brilliant. And Monroe had an innocence and a childlike quality that was beautiful, and unfortunately was used against her at times, and interpreted always as sexuality, and to me sometimes it was just about naivete, and there was a beauty in that. And Lucille Ball, to me, is just the coolest thing ever. I mean, the greatest. I love Lucy.
Thank you for watching Cleveland Live Music. Don't worry, this cop that's approaching is not going to interrupt great uploads. He hopefully supports the channel as much as you folks who hit the subscribe button do. There's Patreon and GoFundMe information that I doubt he's going to do. You can. But subscribe. Keep watching. That's all that counts.